Welcome to the Scott Outpost Investigators Podcast. I'm your host, Softy Mage, and we're here to talk about the Shiyu Defense Deadly Assault Endgame for today's topics of today. And we'll also talk about what we think about the game gimmicks that keep on popping up every so often, like Ether Veil, Aftershock, and etc. So we'll go to our there hosts here. Co-host Thirsty Blood.
Welcome back, everyone. Hello.
And co-host that chap from Canada.
I'm still alive.
So what do you guys think of Shiyu Defense Season 42 from February 20th to March 6th?
You want to start, Chad?
It's been fine. I struggled a little bit at the very end because it's one of the fights is Monato, right? And my account was built like I used Yijuan at the very end. And I couldn't use her engine for Yadari, so I was forced to use Ellen, and I struggled with that a little bit, but other than that, I think it was okay.
I think...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So, I think it was a fine Shiyu, but it was definitely a little bit different than the other Shiyus we had before, because they introduced us to 2 stages with 3 waves. And I have to say one thing. Usually this Covenant Digimon Angel Guardian is something I try to beat with Corrin, and I was pretty successful most of the time, but this time it was a little bit harder due to the 3 waves, and especially the enemy that we have that has been introduced there. What's the name again? Give me a second. The miasma spawns. They are so annoying with Corrin because every time you want to EX with against the miasma spawn, they move away, which is kind of bad for Corrin if you want to kill those enemies. Other than that, I didn't have a too tough time. It was quite fun. But I can see that some people, I think I heard also some people in other communities, like Senpai's Discord server, that the 3 waves was a little bit more rough this time around. So yeah.
Yeah, the waves kind of they test your ability to group enemies, and
Exactly.
not all team comps are very good at grouping those enemies.
And also Nicole has now even a more difficult time to group enemies, especially the miasma spawns in the first stage. They don't really like it, so the best alternative right now is Yuzuha. Softy, what do you think?
Yuzuha, or yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I for some reason didn't have troubles like with this Shiyu, but I do agree grouping was a little bit harder this Shiyu because the spawns and all the like mini guys were like not groupable. Like the only ones that were groupable was the Fawns and Monatos. Those were easy to group, but the other ones they didn't really want to group together.
Yeah. It's a little bit... It's getting rough. They're trying out how many waves they can put in. And this comes to one of my critical points I personally have is still the timer thing, the 1 minute thing. They should I really want them to change that. So for the next survey, I will definitely hit that up, and will also apparently give a little dissatisfaction on this Shiyu system, the new one we have right now, because I don't see that as a good future option for endgame. I don't mind the gear lock. I don't mind that we have to use 3 different teams. I actually like that a lot, but they should definitely not do a timer thing on the scoring system. They should make it more like happen with the better you play, the more you parry, the more you do other combinations, then your points go up, and not the other way around with a timed thingy, especially if they want to implement 3 waves, because it is not really user friendly for free to play players.
And
Yeah.
The thing. You go, Softy. I'll say after
if
you.
they do it that way, though, wouldn't it just be a deadly assault then? So that's why I think the timer is still a Shiyu gimmick that I like, but I think they need to go back to where there's only 2 waves, because the 3 waves thing, it's like you're not usually getting to the boss within the minute. For some accounts, you'll probably get to the boss within the second minute, and that's when you're gonna have your slower score.
Exactly, and that's the issue if they implement more free waves types of patterns, you know what I mean? It's like I do understand it might sound like a little bit more SDA, but people already have compared the new Shiyu SDA, you know what I mean? And the difference right now in score chasing is DA is based on the damage alone, while the Shiyu has this weird point system, but it also already counts your damage in. If you input now the timer away, if you get the timer away and make a scoring based on combinations like parries, dodges, shoulder on shoulder, and all these gimmicks we have in the game, and actually put the emphasis on the multipliers for these gimmicks higher, then you would be forced, and you also force the players to play better and use more parries, dodge options, and it's not only the damage. You know what I mean? That would be a good thing, at least in my opinion and in my point of view.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan right now of it just being kill the enemy as fast as you can, like the wave enemy, and then just ultimate dump so you can get the maximum amount of points from those ultimates, because they tend to overshadow the amount of damage you would deal for saving from a stun window. And the only time that stun window would even come into effect is if your account is strong enough that you wouldn't have even needed the boost anyway.
And we don't always want to waste an ultimate on a mini mob. We always want to use our ultimates on the main boss. So that's another reason why I think...
mean. That's what I mean, is that you don't want to waste your ultimate on the waves beforehand. But some of these enemies are tanky enough that you just have no choice if you want to even get a chance.
But
I don't know, it's. I feel like they should definitely retool it a little bit. I just don't really have a suggestion on how they would do that. I kind of miss the old stuff, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think the old Shiyu was better. It felt better. And Softy, I do understand your point, because it is true. This Shiyu system we have right now forces you to play differently, which is probably, it was refreshing at the beginning, but for some reason it doesn't really feel like, and maybe this is because like you could say, you know, people hate changes and reminisce about the past, but still I think the time-based system was way better in Shiyu. And if we have something like just time-based again, it would be way better and feel also better, and maybe also not like in the DA. But regarding of how they implemented it right now, the scoring system is still the biggest issue I see right now. They have to change it. However, they have to do it, make it different as we have right now.
Yeah. I don't know how they would change it. It's just we've done a few patches with this system, and it's like, it's fine, but it kind of feels worse than it was before. That's kind of my stance on it. We've had enough time to like ruminate on it now.
If I watched your video, Thirsty, on the review for 2.5, and I agree that like the that Shiyu it's changed, and I don't think they're ever going to go back on it because of how it's going as it is. So
Yeah, exactly. It's a hard topic, definitely. It's really hard. It's difficult because what is the best option? My take right now is what we have as of today. And the biggest issue with the scoring would be like, okay, change it so that you have to build up your scoring. And what I could implement is like if you beat the whole stage, like in 1 minute, or let's say in 1 minute, right? You speed run it, you get an extra like an extra bonus points on that one, right? Next to the multiplier with ×5 if you do good gameplay. And this gets a little bit lower the longer you take. Like if you take 1 minute 20 instead of, just an example, 10,000 points, you receive 8,000 points. This is like, and then if you're on 1 minute 40 clearance, you get just 6,000 points. It's just a simple example. It doesn't have to be like with these scores, but it would emphasize again the speedrun tactic. If they give like an extra multiplier that counts up your current score you receive from good, quick gameplay. This would be probably one of the better options they could implement. But yeah, this is just one idea I have right now. So, out of the blue.
Yeah. I don't know. Wider issues, I think we should. If things are how they seem, it's likely it won't change. But, we can still dream.
we can still dream.
Yeah, indeed. But yeah, how do you guys see this Shiyu? I think Softy, did you mention, was it the easiest, hardest Shiyu for you, or was it okay?
So like I said, I think I've heard from other, at least from Kete's server, that he said this was one of the harder Shiyus because of the grouping or the fact there's 3 waves. But I had the easiest time with this Shiyu, and I don't know why. I mean, I did it within like 15-16 minutes. So I thought it was pretty easy to get all this rewards, but maybe because I got my agents built, or I used the buffs to my advantage. So that's why I was like, is it really that hard? Or I think I can see those still.
I mean, it's fine. Each account is different, and sometimes, like, your account might have an easier time than like, let's say, my account or Chap's account. It always depends how you play and also how you build. So I can see that for you it might be easier. I just had to switch my teams, and I mean, I haven't tried. I just went in one go and got 115 points. I used Hitari on the Scorpion, on the Scorps. I used Miyabi on Manado, and at first I used as said, Corrin on the Angel, and later on I switched to Alice and Vivian. And it was way better score-wise, thanks to Vivian and Alice having better AoE, and Yusuha grouping the enemies with her M2 getting the chain attacks. So it was way easier for me to clear at the end of the day. So yeah, I just had to adapt my teams.
I do like that the buffs this time around were very generic, was in like you didn't have to use a specific class within each stage. You could be more generic as to which one you wanted to use.
Agree.
Yeah, that was
way better. The only thing is with the Aether Whale.
Yeah, and that kind of leads on to
our final
little bit. We wanted to talk about the angels and the gimmicks that they bring.
Yeah, we'll go into that later. But I
now it's about the buff.
Yeah, I do think they need to do a different buff other than Aether Veil shill buff that they've done for the past like 3 or 4 Shiyus. I think it's the third Shiyu, but it could be the fourth Shiyu that they've done this Aether Veil.
I think it's the fourth. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I think every White Hunter from Miyabi to Yishuan and now Yishunguang, they all had like an extended form of buff shielding, so that the people who pulled for those characters can enjoy an easy time. You still could use like the alternative with Shao and then use Korin or Neko, and I've seen people doing that. But it becomes an issue. The last Shius, it was okay and no issue at all. Just use Shao and it was 2 waves and done. But with an implementation of a third wave, that's like the hardest shield we ever had currently for Yishuguang on one enemy and then one stage. Alternatives are possible, but it's like they do try to sneak in those hard shields from time to time, testing the limits of people, I guess. It's not really optimal, let's say, for the fun of some people.
It gets kind of boring, I think, would be another thing to say. It's funny because it gives Lucia a passive buff and it gives Yadari a passive buff, but they're like the only other characters that have anything to do with Aether Veil besides the newest. And even then, they were the newest before these patches. So like, I don't know. I'm getting a little tired of Aether Veil.
I agree with you on that sentiment. Like, they just need to change the buff for the first wave being something else other than Aether Veil. But until Suna and Arya or the Angel Illusions are off the banners, I don't think that's going to change much anytime soon. But we'll see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit, but I can at least say I'm bored of it.
Let's go into the other 2 buffs. The fact that the other 2 stages had an ice agent buff on each one was sort of interesting. That it wasn't so diverse as to which agents you want to use, or at least the type of agents. They want you to use ice for the other 2, even though there wasn't really a ice weakness on the third Scorpus, the boss, but still they wanted you to use ice on that one as well.
Yeah, this is probably for people using Yitari. They just put that in there, probably because they didn't want to go 2 times physical, even though Scorpio is like Ether and physical weak. It is funny because this is one thing I mentioned in the report, that all the Shio buffs are most of the time very specified for the stage and for the enemy, which is a good thing, you know. But on the other hand, sometimes we have those buffs with Scorpio, where you suddenly get another element in there, and like, I mean, okay, it's a good option because you can go in with other agents instead of just physical and ether. But it is kind of fun that there is now no like extra physical element addition in there. So like, yeah, that's kind of,
yeah,
in a way. But yeah, it's fine though because they are still pretty generalistic here for now, which I like, and it's a good thing because you have more options and teams you can use for the Shiyu, especially with how it is built up that you have to use 3 different teams.
Would
Yeah.
Would you say that element shilling is better than class shilling in a buff? Is a good question.
That is an interesting question.
I mean, To be honest, if the enemy is already weak and you get buff with an extra, let's say, ether damage, and the Scorpio is ether weak, it is a good time with Yishuan. And for those people who have her and couldn't use her before in any stage, they will have a good time. With my Yitari, I received the ice damage bonus and the ultimate and the sheer damage increase, which is for me personally good. If you want to go in for, let's say, with Ellen against this, you can use most of the buffs, but not the HP increase, right? So, and with Manato, most people wouldn't go in there simply due to the fact that the enemy is fire resistant. So yeah, it would be interesting if they added a fire elemental damage in there, because then, in theory, you could try the Minato or ban your run. But I think this would be a thing most of the player base would do. So, and most people don't read, you know. So I guess the way how they put it right now in the shoe is the best way, because people don't read anyway about the buffs. I've heard this plenty of times. Oh, I just see ice weak, I would just go with ice element. And I suppose this is the reason why the game devs have implemented it this way with the element chilling, so people don't have to think about. And I guess it's good for players like us who are a little bit more detailed, read, and try to do more optimizations. It's kind of boring, I guess, or yeah.
See, I think my answer to the question is like, ideally, like I know this is a naive answer, and I'll get to that. Ideally, there's like no shill, but if I had to choose, I think probably class shilling would be better, just because, like, we have a very large disparity between what characters exist at what element. Like, we have significantly more electric units than we do pretty much every other class, and like, at least like, an attack buff or an attacker buff will benefit all attack characters, but a normal buff realistically will only help like normal damage, let's say, will realistically only help significantly the normal DPS units,
Physical DPS, yeah.
Yeah, so if I had to choose, I would probably say like class. Like if we're going to shill, let's do it through class and not element, just because the elements are all over the place. And we already know that Sissia is electric. And that's going to be another electric attack agent on top of Sanbi and Harumasa and Anton, if we want to count him. But, that's a significant saturation towards electric. And, like, over time, that'll get fixed. Like, they're going to keep introducing characters. That's just how these games work. But still not... I don't know. I think I would... Oh, excuse me. I think I would just prefer them to do the shill for the class, not the element.
It would be interesting to try.
I would have to agree with the class buff being what preferred, because the elements there's so many of them that if they shill one element, then that's like a few agents, whereas they just shill a class, they actually you can actually use more agents because of that, or more DPS agents because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult.
But that's not to say that also doesn't have its problems, because a lot of accounts, we saw this back in, the good old Miyabi days. Shilling towards Anomaly made attacking characters very bad.
and you had to significantly invest in them to get the same amount of damage that Miyabi just did. And it was the same thing with Rupture too. If you didn't get the new Rupture characters, well, sucks to suck, I guess. You know?
Yeah.
It's not to say it's perfect. That's why I said before, you know, if I had to choose, it would probably be none, but we don't live in that world, so.
Yeah. I mean, we also have to see it in this way. The devs want us to give us a challenge, and usually they prepare it in a way to, you know, to take some options away and give us some option. Mostly of the time, of course, with shilling because of marketing issues, marketing things. And it is like for us an adaptation game. We adapt our gameplay and also teams onto these buffs, which is honestly, in hindsight, not a bad thing to do. The main issue is, I think, if we talk about shilling, the main reason for that is the availability, especially at the start of a new gimmick. This becomes an issue if you start chilling with, for instance, Pinnacle we had, where Sevadra had his wonderful crash out, which was kind of funny still today. So it's like, I can understand the worries if there's only Lucia right now in the team and there's only, you have one character who gets the whole buff because they're who can activate the buff, you know. This is an issue. But right now we have enough characters on the roster with the current gimmicks that we have in the game that can adapt to the current buffs and stages we receive from the game devs. So honestly, shilling is only an issue at the beginning most of the time. Like Aftershock was another case of it. We received Aftershock buffs that only Sanvi could use, and Sanvi wasn't really an Aftershock unit at that time at the beginning when she first entered the game. Mm-hmm. It's like hard, you know. Like, how much do you want to complain about like class shilling, elemental shilling? Because in DA we have class shilling, you could say. There's a buff for Rupture, there is an anomaly buff, and then there is the Ether Whale crit attacker buff, you know, especially now for Yishongguang. And if we talk about a class that actually currently has a disadvantage, that would be the regular attacker class. That isn't physical right now, you know, because there is additional and elemental buff for physical mainly. So the only other ones who are now able to use the Ether Whale attack buff is basically Corrin, Neko, Yeshongguang, and who else is there? I forgot. There's another one. I'm stupid. Is there another physical one?
Not as attack. Billy, yeah,
Billy, yeah,
correct, Billy.
Yeah, Billy, exactly. How could I forgot our code? So it's like, okay, so this is currently from the attackers, all other elements are more or less on a disadvantage unless there's a general buff that goes for ultimates. You know what I mean? So it's like, right now we can't have everything because there's only 3 buffs in DA available. How much do we want to lean out of the window? I think we can criticize shilling when it starts right at the beginning and only one agent can activate it. This is bad. If we have more options available, then it's time for adaptation gameplay. And I guess the people or the proxies who will have problems with these buffs are most of the time those who have a vertical invested account and not a horizontal one. And this is probably what we have to consider for this topic specifically. In the future with ZZZ, the horizontal account build up will be way better and has more advantages than going just vertically invested. So I guess that's the thing to to have in mind for this topic specifically. But I would agree, I prefer class shilling more than elemental in general. But well, we have this now, so.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have it? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's a contentious topic, and it'll always be contentious so long as this game like exists.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's gonna kind of be no escape from it. I'm thinking it's gonna happen from the dawn of time. We're gonna be complaining because it's a natural result of incentives clashing. Some people want their accounts to be validated and always be available. Like if you stack anomaly characters because you really like anomaly, really sucks when the devs are just like, nah, we're not doing anomaly this patch. But on the same token, like if you don't stack, you'll never reach those super high scores, and it becomes difficult. At the end of the day, it's clashing incentives. Like they're a company, they want to make money,
and people
they try and do
stores. Yeah,
they try and give us like they throw us bones, but at the end of the day, you kind of just gotta accept that it's not always gonna be happy-go-lucky, you know?
Yeah, you can't have everything, basically. This applies to real life, this applies to gacha games, and honestly, we all are playing gacha games, so we kind of have to expect this kind of rhythm. And still, to this day, I would say that I've played other gachas before, and I would say that ZZZ still has one of the better balances, at least as of now, with its end game and its shilling, to be fair. So it's not as bad as probably other games have it, even though I don't play many other gachas right now. But overall, I'm still very satisfied, apart from the new Shiyu scoring system. But otherwise, it's fine, honestly. Until they go another pinnacle route, then I will criticize again, of course.
It's always healthy to criticize things you like, because we discussed it a little bit before. It's very easy to catch yourself in an echo chamber. So as long as you understand that, like, you know, you can still criticize something you like, you'll be a lot better off, you know? That's kind of why I'm here. I don't know. I criticize this game, which I like.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, no one will. Because the people who don't like this game aren't gonna give constructive criticism. They're gonna give game bad, game sucks.
Yeah, game bad, game EOS soon. I know. No, I do criticize the game also from time to time. That's why I do my report videos as well. Yeah.
Anyway, a little off topic, but
do we have anything else to say about this Shiyu?
Not really anymore.
Yeah.
No, I think we've gone over what we need to.
All right. Well, before we go to Deadly Assault, a word from our sponsor. Looking for a drink that will relax you and ignite you at the same time? Well, don't worry. We have a drink for you. Our sponsor today is Nitro Fuel. Let yourself loose by drinking some savory Nitro Fuel. Do we have a deal for you as well? If you share, like, or subscribe to our channel, you can acquire a buy one, get one free coupon to bring to your favorite Nitro Fuel vendor. Thank you, Nitro Fuel, for sponsoring today's podcast.
Let's go. Thank you, Nitro Fuel. I'm actually want to drink right now, even though I don't consume energy drinks.
Is it an energy drink or is it another kind of drink is the question.
It's usually
in universe, it is implied to be an energy drink. I think Bernice is just crazy.
Yeah, no, it's like an energy alcoholic mixture. So like an energy cocktail with alcohol. And Bernice is like extra spicy and does everything else and put in there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let's talk about Deadly Assault Season 30 from February 13th to February 27th. How do you think about this deadly assault?
Softy, you should start. We have yapped a lot before.
Yeah.
I let me pull up this deadly
I
assault.
caught him off guard. Let's go.
You did catch me off guard. I always liked when they bring Dead End Butcher back because he's one of my favorite bosses to fight. So I think a lot of this deadly assault was a good deadly assault because I do like Primordial Nightmare as well. So the only boss that I'm if about is Miasma Priest, but I still like the boss in general too. So I mean, like, this was a good deadly assault for the boss rotations as to what I like to play against.
Yeah,
that's fair. I'm gonna be honest. I gotta forget. I might have to like mid-game relaunch Zenless to like double check because I kind of forgot what the boss is.
I had a vacation that happened right after Deadly Assault, so I'm lucky I remembered what what I was about. So sorry, guys.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Dude, that's my bad. I should have done my due diligence. It's fine.
You actually had time, like 15
I know
minutes.
I did. Anyway.
He was slacking. We have Sarah, Priest, and the Dead and Butcher as bosses. Is your game already open, or should I continue in the meantime?
Go ahead, Thirsty. What are your thoughts on this deadly assault?
Okay, so yeah, it's okay. It was a good deadly assault we had 3 classes on the DPS side to use: Priest, Dead and Butcher, Sarah, as mentioned before. It was a pretty solid one. I did a little funny on the Butcher. I went in there with Yitari, and funny enough, I think I got over 50k on the first try. But like getting the kill on the Butcher, even with an M6 Yitari, is pretty difficult due to the our current buffs are available, because the current Rupture buff we have only gives you an elemental advantage on the Ether and Fire element. So the only thing I have for Yitari is max HP and ultimate damage plus 40%. And what I did is I didn't go in with Dial-In on the Butcher. I think if I would have used Dial-In, I could go for the kill with my M6 Yitari. But if you use stunners like Fufu or even Lycan, it's not like that. And the main reason for that is not because Dial-In is like overpowered. I mean, she's very strong as a stunner, that's for sure. But it's like if you use Dial-In with double ult with the ultimate damage buff, this is of course a recipe for a lot of damage. Other than that, honestly, Miasma Priest, a classic by now, Ether resistant, and it's like a Rupture boss that says it is like anomaly weak, but you can actually clear it pretty decently with anomaly agents, especially the current mutation buff we have again. For anomaly agents is pretty solid and good. And Sarah is Sarah. I just snack her with my Corrin, because Corrin is the true physical White Hunter with Neko, I guess. So that's that. I don't have the Hans, I don't need the Hans. Yeah. Oh, I'm having fun here. I
actually did try Corrin this time around for at least the Primordial Nightmare and try to get that boss beaten with Corrin, because I did pull for Suna and I was able to get a 20k score with Corrin on that one. So
let's go! He's Corrin gaming. That's how you do it, man. That's how you do it.
Yeah, for me, it was. I was able to kind of clobber my Asthma Priest just because I did invest in because I'm looking at my stuff now and I'm seeing that my Asthma Priest is a whole 20k higher than the other two.
Nice. Did you go Yishuan?
Yeah, I went in Yishuan, Jufufu, and Lucia, but Butcher's always been a bit of a problem for me because my anomaly kind of lacks in general on my account. And then I didn't pull for Yishuang Guang's engine, and I think that really hurts when I brain. That really hurts the damage, so I have to rely on Brimstone.
Yeah.
Which is still good, but like not as good. Funnily enough, this is like the peak Void Hunter lineup, though. Like you get to run all three of them this go around if you have them.
Yeah, if you have 3 Void Hunters, even if they are M0, you will have a wonderful time. And this is also, you can see that on the total score ranking we have, because like I think without trying too much, I got 117,000 points. My ranking is on the top 5.39%. And usually with 117, I can remember that I was around the 2 to 3%. So you definitely can notice that a lot of people on the probably casual side have all 3 Void Hunters, and they will have a blast right now in the end game. Which is fine, honestly, but yeah, it's like the perfect setup for all 3 Void Hunters.
Yeah, they did that last Deadly Assault 2 where it's like, if you had the Void Hunters, you're good to go. I wish they would do more like they do with Shiyu, as in like you can switch to a different set of agents to clear it. But at least I still like the fact that I was able to use the Void Hunters to do this set.
It was actually 1, 2, even 3. Oh, wait a minute, 3? No, 2 DA spec. The third one was Marionette, Thrall, and the Miasmic Fiend. No, it started basically with 3. The last 3 DAs we had were basically Void Hunter shilling. Wandering Hunter, Thrall, and Sacrifice Bringer comes around. Then Nightmare, Fiend, Wandering Hunter. Oh no, wait, huh? No, my bad. My game glitched. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it was 3. 3 DAs before we had Defiler. My bad. Defiler, Marionette, and Priest. Defiler basically was for Yishuang, Marionette for Miyabi, and Priest for Yishuan. Then 2 DAs back, it was Nightmare, Corruption Complex, and Wandering Hunter. So basically also, I think the buff was also Yishuan pilled again. And the last Deadly Assault we had was on Nightmare again, Priest, and Butcher. So yeah, it's like, yeah.
Brings up an interesting question when they inevitably introduce more Void Hunters to the game. How are they going to handle that? Because if they're gonna, you can't chill 4 of them at once unless they're making a new game mode. Which I guess that's what Threshold's for, but we're not talking about that right now.
True. Unless they make 4 battles and Deadly Assault, or they would just simply switch it up, between the Void Hunters. This is also a possibility. So it's like there's plenty of options they can get creative with. But yeah, it's like the game evolves, the game moves forward, and so do we have. And we will see how they will continue with older agents. Right now, they're doing a pretty okay job, better than other games, that's for sure.
We'll have to see how long that continues.
That is true. We will have to see.
The Ether Veil buff was very specific, or at least the attack buff was very specific to Ether Veil, which is one thing I didn't like about this Deadly Assault. But otherwise, it still was. The other 2 buffs were at least generic enough for the class that they were specific for.
Yeah, right. The current is a little bit different compared to before, because this time, we have 2 agents who can activate it, and that is Shao and now Suna. So obviously they would make a buff that also helps Suna. It goes hand in hand with the shilling again. I didn't use it for my Korin this time around. I think I went. What did I use? No, actually, I did use it. Or was it the ultimate buff? I don't know, but I definitely scored a little bit less this time around with Astra, Korin, and Dialin. It still worked, but yeah, you can't use all the buffs because I skipped Suna. I didn't want her. So yeah, I have to deal with that, it happens.
It's I don't know.
It's
The
fine.
buffs being this specific are definitely contention point depending on who you ask. So
True. I got 28 points with Korin, so I can't complain, you know what I mean? Without using the Ether Whale buff, 28,000 points is pretty good. I mean, it's M1 Astra and M1 Dialin that support Korin, but still, it's not bad.
yeah, totally. It's completely fair, completely serviceable. Yeah. Like I said before though, I did struggle a little bit just because my account isn't really built for anomaly, which them's the beans sometimes,
Yeah, I get it. Like Dio, for instance, who isn't here today, is anomaly build, and he struggles basically compared to you with Sarah a little bit more. So we have like two sides of the coin. While I think, Softy, you are more horizontal and have more options, and
I am very
I am-
horizontal, and yes, I have
Yeah.
a lot of options.
Yeah.
I'm also horizontal. I just focus more on rupture and attack agents simply because they're easier to build.
I think anomaly is easier to build, isn't it?
I guess I should say for substats, it's like statistically more probable that any given disc will be good for a attack agent than it is an anomaly agent.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. Yeah. That's understandable.
But I've been working on it. It's just I cannot get a disc that has above 3 on a 3 anomaly proficiency. And most of the attack ones also have crit damage, so I'm like, well, I might as well toss that on my DPS. And oh, hey, my account is DPS based now.
I do have to say though, I'm glad that the overwhelming buff for Rupture gives you ether and fire damage, so everyone who pulled for Banyu is eating good this time around. It would be interesting though if they would do like this kind of buff with fire and ice and leave Yishuan out for and change, because ether is always there and they switch between ice and fire. It would be interesting if they would just get in there the ether away and put fire ice for an elemental change, you know what I mean? This would be kind of fair to those who have Yutari, like I do,
I mean, Yudari's
yeah.
been kind of like the sleeper hit for the last little while.
Oh,
It's just
she
been-
definitely is. She definitely is. Yeah.
She's been strong.
Yeah,
Some
everybody-
people are finding out that Yutari is actually a really good agent, or was a good agent, and they didn't pull for her because I have Miyabi as Ice Agent. Why should I pull for Yutari? Even though she's a complete different class, and I mentioned this in my report that sometimes it is an advantage to have two different classes with the same element, simply due to the fact that each class has a different advantage against bosses. Like if we take the example with Yutari and Miyabi, Yutari will have an advantage against Priest, who is Ice weak, compared to Miyabi, simply because Yutari is good with Rupture, against Rupture, and Priest is a Rupture-based boss. If we take Wandering Hunter as well, there's also the case that Yutari is better than Miyabi. And that's why it is kind of good to have the same element with different classes. This is a good advice I can give other people. Just because you have Miyabi as an Ice Agent doesn't mean you shouldn't build up any other Ice Agent, therefore. Now, on the perspective of free-to-play players, this comes with time. Usually you start with covering most of the element classes, but then it is fine, honestly, to get another element, or let's say another class of the same element if you have 3 teams, for example. That is totally fine and shouldn't be a reason to not pull an agent, because there's some people who don't pull an agent they like because they say, oh, I have the Void Hunter Miyabi, so why should I pull? I mean, do you want to have fun in the game or not if you like the character? You know what I mean? This is like, but yeah, there's a lot to consider on these parts.
As in horizontally investing to make sure you have multiple classes with the same element available. That's why I'd probably go that route rather than just say Miyabi is your ice agent, you're good to go for the rest of the game. That shouldn't be the case because Miyabi is very much been fighting against, or the game has been fighting against Miyabi, which I feel like they shouldn't have, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's a wider game issue that I don't think this conversation is necessarily for the whole of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I guess maybe it is. I don't know. It's a podcast.
It drifted. Yeah, true. I drifted off a little bit, but I thought this is like also good to mention here in this podcast that the flexibility of having multiple options and sources of DPS you can gather for the different deadly assaults and also sheer defenses we receive. It's definitely it will be more fun for you as well if you have like, oh, hey, there's this boss. I can use this. I can use my attacker class for this boss instead of my, anomaly class that is like heavily underperforming due to all the debuffs, and then you just go, okay, I will use Hugo because he works there. You know what I mean? And yeah, but each to their own, so it's like, you can still clear Sarah with Miyabi. Salvador tried it already on the M0, and the 20k is possible. So it's not like impossible right now. You can clear any boss with each class, but the scoring will be just less. So it really depends what you want in the game. Do you want to just clear, or do you want to go for high scores? If it goes for the high scores, you have to adapt and get certain agent with classes. If you just want to clear, then stay at Miyabi. She can still clear and build on her vertically.
Yeah.
All right.
Do we have anything more to say about Deadly Assault?
Well, I was gonna suggest. I think we've talked what we need to about that, and we should maybe move on to the next topic.
Yeah, let's move on to our game gimmicks topic. We've been sort of riding the rails on like our thoughts on Aether Veil buffs or the Aether Veil gimmick and how we feel about it. And there's the other one, Aftershock, as in the Obel squad has really been going after that, plus Fufu. And then the a Bloom mechanic is the main 3 that we have at the moment.
Yeah, for a little more background stuff, we were originally going to talk about the Angels, but we figured that it would be a little more interesting if we talked about the gimmicks that they've been sort of glued to since, they've been revealed. And, that being Aether Veil. We've had a lot to talk about Aether Veil. And I don't know. It's like I'm having a brain fart on how to describe this. It's there have been they've been introducing lots of gimmicks lately, or maybe not lately, but there have been a lot of gimmicks in Zenless so far, and if they keep going on, we might have to consider what that means for the game. And the Angels are a good representation of that because it seems like they're all basically glued to Aetherveil, kind of like how Yisheng Wang is.
Right. Yeah, Aetherveil started with Lucia, and they built up quite a lot on many agents right now. I think Aetherveil is even the most used gimmick right now in the game compared to Aftershock and a Bloom, to be fair, because they pumped out so many agents with it right now, which is interesting. That wasn't the case before. Aftershock was a gimmick mostly in combination with Oval Squad, but we also have Pulcro as an Aftershock and Fufu as an Aftershock. Is there anyone
Yuzuha
else?
technically also has Aftershock.
Yeah, true. Yuzuha is also an Aftershock gimmick.
And technically, Lucia is also an Aftershock.
right, yeah. Lucia,
so,
Aftershock.
It's not to say that it's been abandoned, but it's not really been focused on. Yeah, we had the super strong shill period when Sanby came out and Trigger, and then when Magus came out, it bumped that up. But then the other characters, Lucia, Yuzuha, Jufufu, they've kind of just been tacked on. I guess Jufufu's a little more attached to it, but I just worry that the Angels might suffer the same fate where they focus so much on the Aetherveil, and then later on they're just gonna find a new gimmick to a staple on, and then the Angels, who everyone's been waiting for so long, are now left in the dust, and people will get salty.
I got a stupid question. Is Aetherveil just a status? Because I have no clue what Aetherveil does, other than it just being a status.
So Aetherveil itself, as a mechanic, is just like a buff that exists that defines itself as Aetherveil. What the buffs you get depend on what agent you use. So like Zhao, for example, only triggers her buff when Aetherveil is active. But it's basically like a dependency. If active, then whatever agent buff or whatever stage buff. I don't believe it does anything inherent.
That's what I mean. It's just a status effect. It's not like an actual like Aftershock. It actually deals damage afterwards, or it's a damage specific thing. A Bloom is damage specific. Aetherveil has been very generic, as in just you have it up and then it's that's how it's active.
It's like a passive, you could say, because Aetherveil, you see Aetherveil on the border of your screen. It's these wavy thingies. So is it green bluish thingy that is bubbling around there? It's basically like you cover up in the Aetherveil and you get stronger basically, or you get heals or whatever. So yeah, that's basically Aetherveil. Aetherveil is just a mechanic that you can turn on and off, and most of the time you want to have it on to receive whatever buff for each agent that receives a buff or better, damage scores like Itari during the Aetherveil time. Yeah, it's a passive buff each agent receives and has a different one. A Bloom actually was a game mechanic that was solely on Vivian.
But very recently.
Yeah, but very recently, it seems like before introducing something new on the anomaly side, which was kind of criticized by quite some people also, that it wasn't just unique for Vivian, but now more agents received the Bloom mechanic, like Bernice and also Grace. Is it good? I mean, for the buffing of both agents, it is good, I guess. But at the same time, Vivian, therefore, is not unique again. And now we we have Area on the horizon, and I think in the game dev, as in our introduction, they have presented her also having a bloom mechanic. So basically, they doubled down on this one here. So it's a gimmick now for more anomaly agents in the future. It seems that there will be a bloom mechanic now.
The big thing that, or the reason we want to discuss this is because of the, as I put it, the bloat that the game is going to possibly go through if we keep getting mechanics like this, and whether or not it'd be good to just expand what the current gimmicks do, or if we should actually improve. Like, should we make the mechanic, or should they deepen the mechanics that are already there, or should we widen the pool and give out more gimmicks? It's kind of the thought process we had here. And the reason we brought it up, like I said, is because the Angels really brought it to the forefront, and the amount of buffs we've been getting in Deadly Assault and Shiyu has been Aether Veil, Aether Veil, Aether Veil, Aether Veil, Aether Veil. So there's kind of like two arguments, because on the one hand, I said I was bored of Aether Veil before, and if we just keep deepening the pool, then we'll just see Aether Veil over and over and over again. But on the other hand, what happens if we start stacking more gimmicks and now all of a sudden Aether Veil becomes completely meaningless?
I already feel like that's
kind of
what the Aether Veil is. It's meaningless. It's just a status. So
yeah, it only matters when the devs want it to matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's like difficult to balance it out. So even for a game dev, it's like, as you said, will you implement more unique gimmicks for each agent, and then at some point you have no idea which one does what? Or you build on current existing gimmicks, and you can basically have a wider roster to use when there is like an Aftershock buff, when there is an Ether Whale buff available. And then you have like a bigger variety to choose from. So I think the best way to balance both sides of the coin is that you create a gimmick and basically have a certain amount of agents that are able to use this gimmick, and then move on to the next one, because that way it is not just only a few agents have it, but maybe a wider roster. And at the same time, you allow also new gimmicks on the horizon that brings a fresh air of gameplay. You know what I mean? And it's like difficult to say, do you just want to go this way, or do you just want to go that way?
Yeah.
It's like it's probably a preference in gameplay and what you prefer yourself. Like, I wouldn't have minded if Vivian has her Bloom gimmick only for herself, you know, but I didn't really mind now that Bernice has it, and also Grace, and now Arya as well. It's not like I would say this is completely bad. And I would also don't. I also wouldn't mind more Aftershock agents, to be honest, on the platter, because I do have some Aftershock agents, and they can be very useful and give you more opportunities for team building. But again, this is now my POV, and there will be probably other people who won't share that. And it's hard for the game devs probably to focus on everyone. You know, there will always be winners and losers. So
And
I guess
it's also tough because, again, both sides have their pros and cons, and I don't think it's possible to have a strategy that'll permanently work, because, you know, we already feel fatigue with Aether Veil. So if they were to continue improving it in depth, like improving the depth, i.e. making more characters that benefit from it or generate it, or more buffs, or then, you know, then people will get bored of it. But at the same time, if they continue to add new mechanics, because if you think about it, we have a lot of mechanics in Zenless right now, and for a new player, it's kind of overwhelming. that at the beginning, right? Or not at the beginning, but during one of the relaunches, they added tutorials to teach about like the manual chain attack and the manual cancel of a chain attack, so you can attack with your attacker twice, and that was good. That was shoulder to shoulder, yeah. They did, and that was probably one of the best additions to the game because it teaches players about mechanics that either are intended or weren't intended, but they decided to keep around. Problem is, like, so to go down the list, right? We have the stun meter, we have chain attacks, we have disorder, we have anomaly procs, we have a bloom, we have stun extending, which I don't even know if that has a name or if it's just like a stun extending, the thing that Lighter and Dylan do.
It's simple stun extension, as the word says.
Okay. You have Aftershock. I said a bloom already. We now have Aether Veil. We have Sheer Force, if we want to count that. Because even to this day, I still hear people a little confused about what Sheer Force even is. You know? And now, even, like, you can even consider, like, Hugo's Totalize, even though it's, like, a mechanic specific to him. It's still another thing that a player might have to learn should they wish to pull him. So there's a lot of stuff out right now.
Which is not a bad thing, because it keeps the game fresh at one point.
Yeah, it's not necessarily it's not necessarily or inherently a bad thing, but it is a thing, and it does make it confusing for new players to get into the game, which, you know, not ideal. You could play. Sorry.
Yeah, as a new player, one mechanic that I don't like is Aftershock, and because there's agents that deal off-field damage, but they're not considered Aftershock, whereas there's agents that specifically say Aftershock in their thing, and that's what Aftershock is an off-field attack. So I don't really understand why not all agents that are off-field attackers are not Aftershock agents. It sort of irritates me that they didn't make that a full mechanic for any agent that does off-field damage.
It's kind of how I felt with Astra too. I'm surprised they didn't make her like Credenza State on Aether Veil, because it feels like that's exactly what it does, right?
Who knows what went in the development team side? They probably had their own thoughts regarding these things, and I mean, if you have seen the game devs talks, they do consider the current games dead, but they also have they have plans also ahead. I think they said they have the next new generation of agents. I think they have planned for over half a year in front, So what they have to do is basically think about, okay, we have old agents now, we have current agents now, and we have future agents now. And you have to build a whole game, and all these mechanics, you kind of have to build new stuff, but also make it kind of combining with the old stuff, so that it doesn't fall out too much. Planning that is difficult. You kind of have to start somewhere, but you also have to end somewhere, you know what I mean? And I think this is a rough spot, and you want to continue the game. So at some point you have to make a decision. Something will fall flat, and then something will get pushed out. And at the beginning, before the Aether Veil started, we were focused on Aftershock and attackers in 2.x until Lucia came. And then the Aether Veil started to build up slowly and steady. And now Aether Veil is very present and quite a huge game mechanic for the ZZZ game specifically. At some point, either they will continue from time to time to add some new agents in the future with an Aether Veil gimmick. Maybe Aether Veil combined with a Bloom, or maybe Aether Veil combined with Aftershock. maybe they will start combining these gimmicks we have right now in the game. Like this is also a possibility now to go on there. And then if it is kind of satisfied, they will start something new to keep the game also fresh. Because there's also a thing, like you said, if it's too much Ether Whale or too much a Bloom or too much Aftershock, it gets boring. So what do? They will start introducing a new gimmick, and then they will probably combine the new gimmick with existing gimmicks. Then, therefore, later on, right? So it's
Yeah,
like, I mean, if the game is 5 years old, and if you start if you start CCC when it's 5 years old, of course you will be overwhelmed. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean you can't play the game, because when you start and this is what we talked about before, if you start CCC right now, your pools will go towards the current existing agents, which means is you start building up on the current existing gimmick, which is not a bad thing. You are basically immediately up to date, even though you probably don't have this big of a roster, but you get a lot of pulls, therefore. So you can basically start building up on the current existing meta. You can start building up on what you have right now, also on everything that goes in the future. And yeah, you just have to go from there. Will it be overwhelming and you have to do a lot? Yes, of course. But, this doesn't mean you can't have fun. It always comes down to preference and how you like to play. I heard plenty of people saying they did like the start. They, of course, are a little bit sad to have missed things in the past, but thankfully we have reruns. So if there's some agent you want to get from the past, then you have to grab it from reruns. And everything else is like a subjective and preference, to be honest. Of course, we can be critical about certain things, but at the end of the day, there's like a balance we have also to consider. Like, it's not all that bad.
no, but it's definitely something to think about. As a player, as a current player of the game, we should think about these kinds of stuff because it's important to the long-term health of the game.
Yeah. Question is, what is your solution? Do you have an idea for the solution?
This
is the interesting question.
Yeah, the solution, I think, is not. It's not easy, and it's also kind of against the incentive of the game. The solution is to just, in my opinion, slow down a little bit. But again, that's against the incentive of the game because like you said before, they have characters planned out for 6 months, right? Like they have the characters for the next 4 patches already ready to go. It's the same thing that happens in trading card games. By the time a new set comes out, the next set is already ready to go. It's just waiting for everything to happen. And if you give more time, that gives the devs more time to fix things, or not fix things, but integrate them better and make it easier for players to it just gives them a better time. I guess it lets the devs slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I have to say that there's one thing I definitely agree with. I wouldn't mind if the game devs would tune it a little bit down, but I have heard many players that they get bored if there is not a new agent every 3 weeks. But to be honest, if there is a new agent every month, I think that even this is kind of too fast, you know what I mean? So if there's a new agent every 4 or 5 weeks, I would prefer that definitely more than every 3 weeks. But this is the game's nature, as you have stated already again. So we have to deal with that, because if it's too long, then there will be people bored because, they are impatient. They always want new stuff. So it comes back to preference again and what people prefer, It's it's really hard there's no real right and wrong in this case, in specifically, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's there's no clean answer. It's just going to be a thing that the game's going to deal with. Ultimately, as time goes on, it will, like, we're going to get power creep. Like, I was thinking about it when you were talking about how these mechanics could be mixed together. If we get a character that does Aftershock, Ether Veil, and a Bloom all at once, like, isn't that a huge amount of power creep? Like, no other agent
Depends.
before.
Depends how they code it and implement it. Like, you could make an universal character, but overall with like less multipliers compared to specific things, like having a jack of all trades. Like, it's not an expert in, an expert in one of these things, but it is a generalist, and generalists are usually pretty good. That's why I do love, for instance, Chufufu as a character, because she's a pretty solid generalist. And also, turns out, Trigger is a good generalist as a stunner for Anomaly, for Rupture, and also for the regular attackers. So it always depends how the game devs implement the multipliers. There's nothing wrong to have like an agent that has all gimmicks. Depends only on how strong will you make them. And this is the balance that is actually important about the power creep factor. Will there be power creep? Yes. We will always have power creep. That's why also the HP inflation is a permanent topic. They will just adapt it to the newer agents that come across. But therefore, what they also do, they have lowered HP in the past. They have adapted buffs in the past and also in the current present everything. Like right now, this is where my report comes back in again. You can at least until 2.5, where I based my report off, you can still clear the end game with all agents. Do you have to adapt your teams? Yes. Do you have to invest in your teams? Yes. Do you have to have certain skills? Yes. But skill depends on how much you build your agents. And in the end, like, it is a whole package. And depending on how much you want to play the game, you will have an easier time and can have and also a better chance to chase high scores, or you're just someone who doesn't really care or don't have too much time, don't want to invest it, then you just go with the bare minimum. And yeah, this is like
It's
the only thing. Yeah. This is how it goes.
it's a kind of circular topic. We probably should.
Yeah, sorry about that, Softy.
I only have two
But it's
things
a
to
wide
say.
topic.
Is that Aftershock, they should have actually generalized it as there's a couple off-field agents that should be considered Aftershock, or at least have an Aftershock in their ability. Like Lycon, they just updated his kit to do off-field attacks, so it should be considered Aftershock, but it's not. And Astra as well is not considered, her attacks are Aftershock or the Aether Veil. They should have updated that to say, hey, this is an Aether Veil buff, or hey, say this is an Aftershock type of damage, or that it's now considered that. But it's really hard to go back when you've built the kit as they are. Like you said before, Thirsty, that once they've sort of did the kit, they sort of move on to the next kit that they have without going back, which I'm happy they're going back. But one thing I just didn't like about Lycon's new kit, it's like that off-field attacks is not considered Aftershocks.
Yeah, I agree with that one. That's odd. And by the way, if we talk about older agents, we can be glad that the ZZZ devs have started to buff older agents. You know what I mean? And this is not something that is a usual thing for Gacha games, because many usually forget about the older agents and just move on. And ZZC decided to do it differently, which means if we go by buffing older agents, like Bernice, for instance, got a bloom. Who says that in the future, Astra won't receive an Aether Whale edition if they buff Astra.
And that's totally something that can and possibly will happen. It's that goes into more in-depth philosophy on the game, like of should we be buffing? Like most people would say yes, but after a character gets buffed, what happens when that buff now becomes obsolete? You know, or like a character gets buffed and then they're good for a while and then, you know, they fall out and then they're like, well, now they need a new buff. And it kind of becomes a stacking pile of characters that, you know, they got a buff before, and there's an argument to say, well, they already got their buff. Shouldn't another character get a buff?
I mean, Ellen and Sandy have gotten like 2 to 3 buffs in total. So like
they're still just okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's something, you know, for the player base who loves these agents. It is a blessing, you know what I mean? Which is a good thing. I like the Soldier 11 buff. I like, I basically like all these buffs the older agents received, you know what I mean? It's like a good gesture of the game. Will it be always possible? Probably not. Will it take more time? Yes, of course. But I think it is good that the intention is there to make all the agents viable. You know what I mean? Will it be perfect? Never. Will it satisfy all customers or players in this case? No. But the intention is there, which means that the ZZZ devs still care about the game, you know, and still try their best. But there's always a limiting factor, and which goes back to what I said before. You can't have everything. It will never be a perfect game. You have to deal with what we have. But it is also a good thing, you know. We move on with the games. We receive polychromes, and therefore we decide what we do with our polychromes. Do we invest in mindscapes with the older agents to make them still viable in the current end game? Or do we decide to pull for a new character? Because thanks to the reruns with the mindscapes, if you have a higher mindscape, the agent, even older agents, will be more viable again. You know what I mean? So it's up to you to decide what you will do. Will you go for mindscapes so that you can play with Shuyuan longer? Like, let's say you're M3 and you decide to go for M4, you know, for the next buff. Do your job, you know, like then you have Shuyuan on M4 and probably can still high score on your things, on the current game.
So, Chap, where can we find you?
You can find me personally at the Battle Hub Discord as a moderator. Usually in the background, but I'm there.
Thirsty, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can also find me in the Battle Hub Discord server. I am the owner of the Battle Hub, together with Sevadra. And you can also find me on YouTube at Random Blood Gaming, where I have posted my newest video, the report about patch 2.5 in Zenless Zone 0, where I talk pretty deeply about the topic of endgame clearance of CCC and how it all evolves around it. And yeah, it seems to... it is very detailed, that's for sure. So you might want to check it out, because I do combine each playstyle and also each account from free-to-play to spenders. Softy, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube at SoftyMage, and I do Deadly Assaults with some kind of a twist. And then also I'm another moderator as well with the Battle Hub Discord server. So check out the Battle Hub Discord server and check out our community. All right, guys, you take care.
Have a good one.